Yo, I'm back. What's going on, guys? Alex7 here. Welcome back to another Test Drive Unlimited solo crown video. Now, the last time we got news about TDU SC was in July, right? Well, if you've been following me, you know that's wrong. However, if you're new to this, technically the answer is no. Now, there have been 5 developer interviews that have dropped over the past couple of months, and they give us some pretty important details about TDU SC. Now in this video, I'm going to go over my thoughts about TDU SC in general. I'm also going to tell you about why I'm still hyped. I'm also going to tell you when I think the game is going to release and when we're possibly going to be seeing news next. So without further ado, let's get straight into this. Now, like I said, I've already done a video covering the developer interviews, but I'm going to show you some key pieces of information up on the screen right now. So the first key one I want to show you is what Alan News says. He says, I want this feeling of driving the right cars with the right feelings to be stronger in TDU than Forza Horizon. It won't be a racing simulation, it will be a driving simulation. When you're in a Ferrari or a Beetle, the experience is not the same. You'll feel it, and it's important you love cars, you want to feel the difference between them. So, a very key thing he said. He also said, when you're able to go off-road and climb mountains, it's not at the same level of simulation like a Formula 1 or WRC game. The idea is to be more simulation than Forza Horizon and The Crew, which are quite arcadey. Yes, this is what we want to hear. He also says part of the enjoyment of driving is to have something that's realistic, not too simulation, but we want to give the players the freedom to tweak the driving aids to get something closer to simulation if they want. Again, this is everything we really wanted to hear about TDU SC so far. Another thing is from this quote, and something that's very important that again we all love to know is having a realistic game and supercars not being able to drive fast off-road. Well, he actually says it right here. It's not a good thing to do to go off-road with a hypercar. For example, it's not a good idea to race around the island with an SUV instead of a hypercar. So again, things we want to hear about the game. And of course, who can forget progression, guys? He even says, you launch Forza, you spin the wheel. I did it. I had a designer who wanted to try the game, but he said, I don't have a supercar. I said to him, did you spin the wheel? And he wins an I8 in 30 seconds. So he says very perfectly, they have a defect in their quality. The quality is that they have 700 cars. It's a sick thing, except that in fact they have too many. In TDU, you have this emotional side with the car, which you don't have at all with Forza. Nail right there in the coffin, guys. What he said is exactly true, and all these things are things we wanted to hear about Test Drive Unlimited so far, and it's given some pretty good views, and I think KT are gonna smash it. I'll also leave all of the interview links in the description below so you can see all the details yourself and read up on it. Now, I actually forgot to mention something very important. Alan Janu also said in one of these developer interviews, we know that people want to see more of the game. On our side, we like to show more of what we've done, but the game is in development. I think the game will be shown with gameplay trailers quite a few times, but we want to be sure we won't disappoint TDU fans. We know that every image and gameplay video will be looked at very closely and discussed. We will show more to fans as soon as possible. I can say it won't be in years, it will be as soon as possible. We want to show a very good and beautiful game. We don't want to go too fast and deceive fans. I'm very excited to give Test Drive Unlimited to the community, but I want it to be a true Test Drive Unlimited experience. We're taking the time we need to make the best game possible. Really important, because the fact that this is coming from the actual game director himself, man, it gives me some pretty good hope on the game. Now let's talk about when we're going to hear about the game. One thing to remember is that since the reveal of Test Drive Unlimited Solo Crown in July 2020, every next segment of news doesn't happen until the following year in the spring. So this wait time is honestly not anything new. We just gotta be patient. But with that being said though, looking at the past 3 years of how they've marketed the game, we're most likely going to be hearing about this game from between late April to the end of May. And the good news is that at most, we will be hearing about the game at this year's Nakon Connect, which is normally announced at the end of June, and it actually happens within the first 8 days of July. What could they show though? Well, I'm pretty sure it won't be CGI again, so a lot of you guys are going to be happy, and it will probably be gameplay or an in-engine trailer, since they should be at that stage around summer. I should also probably say I don't think they'll be at E3 this year, guys, as they might go to Gamescom instead, which is hosted in August, most likely due to the logistics and costs being associated with going to E3 in LA over Germany's Gamescom. I mean, don't forget, Nakon is French, so you want to keep that in mind as well. But now that's out of the way, let's talk about the release date. I mentioned a while back that in a financial document, it showcased Test Drive Unlimited Solo Crown as being a fiscal year 23 to 24 release. Now, businesses run on different year to end dates, Nakon's being April 1st to March 31st. So for the fiscal year of 2023/2024, TDU SC is going to be in the bracket between April 1st of this year to March 31st next year. Now, obviously, this game isn't going to drop on April the 1st this year, but I'm fairly certain it's going to launch after the summer, especially since there are gaming events to show this game at. It's also worth noting that in a more recent financial document from a few days ago, it actually said this: in the fiscal year of 2023/2024, the con will have a wide range of new releases with about 20 games to be launched during the year, including, you guys can see, Lord of the Rings Golem, which is to be released in the first half of 2023/2024. And then it also names RoboCop, Rogue City, Gangs of Sherwood, and Test Drive Unlimited Solo Crown. Now this probably hints at Test Drive Unlimited Solo Crown being in the second half of Nakon's fiscal year, which is actually from October 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024. Now so far we have the release year of TDU SC being 2023. It's safe to assume we're going to be seeing TDU SC between this year October 1st and the end of this year December 31st. But I personally think it's going to be a November or December release, and could they delay it? Well, honestly guys, simply I don't know, but if they do, honestly I wouldn't mind the extra 2 months anyway with a release in February probably at latest, especially for the opportunity of it being more polished. Just being honest, of course, which again I don't want the delay to happen. This is just something as a precaution to myself. But regardless, I still think it's probably going to be releasing this year anyway. Also, I know some people are worried because recently Steam changed their policy and all of the unreleased games on their site actually changed to coming soon, which happened to TDU SC. So no, TDU SC isn't coming soon, but it isn't delayed either. It's still slated for 2023, most very likely between October 1st and December 31st this year. Now, despite all of this, I think a lot of people can agree I'm more on the optimistic side, and I'm very much still hyped for Test Drive Unlimited Solo Crown. And it's not because I'm blindly following the game, but it's because the evidence that supports why TDU SC can be a good racing game, and even a great one at that. An easy example, take a look at this comparison between WRC 10 and WRC Generations. Crazy, right? Like, I don't even mind that. A lot of the screenshots we've already seen from Test Drive Unlimited Solo Crown's alpha, which again is probably nowhere near the finished look, but I mean, these already look pretty damn spectacular, and you guys already know. I'm sure you can see for yourself right here with all of these screenshots. And luckily this isn't Forza either, as graphics don't just make a game, the gameplay is pretty heavily involved too. So physics, well, I've already talked to you guys about that earlier, but they're aiming to make TDU SC more sim-like when compared to Forza and the Crew, which is great because we've never actually gotten an open world sim driving game. I mean, PlayStation doesn't even have an open world racing game come close to Forza Horizon's arcade style. And progression, well, don't even worry about that, guys, because Alex New, the game director of TDU SC and also the key dev who worked on Test Drive Unlimited 1 and Test Drive Unlimited 2, said he didn't like Forza Horizon's system of giving cars so easily. And map, don't get me wrong, I've said this many times, and I was a massive supporter of the Tenerife idea, so much I pulled a 5-head and did some math and came up with a theory for it. So just as the next guy, I want a big map, but Hong Kong Island has shown me you don't need a big map to have fun. I mean, there's Victoria Peak, we can get crazy views and an entire downtown district core being more dense than any other open world racing game in history, and half underground, half underwater 4-kilometer long tunnel, which is the longest tunnel in an open world racing game in history, and it actually has more driving roads when compared to Test Drive Unlimited 2's Ibiza, while also still being smaller. I can't forget the amount of 2-gate roads and drift areas you can cruise around in with your friends, with a coastal highway even, guys. I've done a video covering all of this and more of it before, so I'll probably link that in the description below as well. But all of the dev interviews that we have heard and have given us great insight of TDU SC so far, all of which is why I think Kiloton are really pushing their soul into this game. I mean, they've improved pretty immensely since their WRC 5 days, and Generations, I'm sure, is just a small crumb of what they have yet to achieve. And honestly, I think they can pull this off, guys, and they deserve to pull it off as well. But there's just one thing I asked KT to do. That's 900-degree steering, and of course, the sound design quality from Beethoven himself. Now, one might be easier than the other, but I'm sure you're going to make the game as polished, sounding, and looking great as possible. And with that being said though, I'm pretty excited for TDSC still, guys, regardless of the negativity that some people voice about it. I mean, TDSC has the ability to be a much different game compared to other racing games out there, simply because of the amount of features that are built into it and built into the gameplay itself. I mean, we already have the nightclub, rooftops, casinos, dealerships, the solar hotel, most likely clothing stores, hopefully houses, hopefully tuning shops, just because of the lifestyle aspect that TDU has. I mean, post-launch, that is a whole different story. TDU SC could have the best post-launch of pretty much a lot of games out there, simply because of the features that you can add, the features you can do to the game. Like, you want to add more houses? Sure. Add more dealerships, add more tuning shops, etc. It is possible in this game just because of its lifestyle aspect. But I'll go into detail all about that in a different video at a later date. And with that being said, I think we can all agree it won't be much longer until we hear something soon. I mean, honestly, we're almost about to be in February and I've only uploaded one video, so time's flying, guys. But seriously, this is going to be the year that when news actually drops, it's going to come pretty hard, and I can't wait to see what TDSC has in store for us. And other than that, guys, you already know what it is. I'm Alex7, and I'm out, guys. Peace.